relaxing into it. And then waiting for the conversation to arise. That in itself is a form of mindfulness and could even be classified within the realm of meditation. So, on this beautiful day, what I would like to start with is talking a bit about conditional versus non-conditional. And the reason why I want to start there is because I feel there's a strong relevancy when we start to look at the practice of meditation. When we begin to truly observe the content of the mind and the thoughts and emotions that it has. And when we rest into the truth of how we respond and react to that inner environment and the content of the mind, the relevancy of this conditional versus non-conditional really begins to rise as the conversation. And we have all definitely had exposure to this from a very young age. Receiving conditional or unconditional love or even attention. Being taught to give others unconditional love back, or even being taught to give conditional love back. And that part of the conversation is irrelevant. What's happened in the past has happened in the past. The way that you operate, the way that your brain has been programmed, is a simple fact that your brain has been programmed in that way. But what the beauty is that you are now taking that exact same formula and turning it in upon yourself. So it's observing the content of your mind as not being you and yours, but being something that you are observing, something that you are experiencing as a third person experience. If that makes any sense. So I am not thought, I am not emotion. But then if we are talking about this conditional versus non-conditional experience within oneself, then how do we see that thought and emotion? Is it conditionally or non-conditionally being experienced by you as the observer? And what this does is it gives the practitioner an immense amount of opportunity to do the work, because it's quietly done with oneself, without interruption, without even commentary from outside influences that are not you as the individual. And what transpires, what begins to manifest from that, is a change of perception, attitude, and then ultimately relationship on the outside. And why I want to talk about it is because every human being has this condition versus non-condition. It's not possible for any one of us in this room to say, well, I'm evolved past that, because this is what we deal with here, on Earth. This is a human experience. We all work with it. So then the gains are made in how mature we are, you are, within that relationship, conditional versus non-conditional. Your ability to recognize, your ability to put back to rest, your ability to work internally on that which needs work, until it becomes so faint, so fine, that it no longer grabs you and pulls you. That it is just simply a ghost-like sensation. Oh yeah, I remember when. But you're so firm and grounded in that which you are supposed to be doing. Supposed to be. That which you are called to do, or that which you understand and know to be right. Right. Because we use these words, right? Well, this is the right way. But what's amazing is that this unconditional, when put into a light which is not the ideal opportunity for that to express itself, becomes conditional. Well, I can only if, only because, only when. So then what is the validity of that if there is a mechanism inside of us that is of defense? Do we need actually a mechanism of defense? Is something or someone attempting to hurt you? Is that thought against you? Is it possible for a thought to be against you? And the great thing for me would be to give you a very concise, clear answer and say, of course not. But this would, in a sense, be a conditional. And the reality is that maybe it is hurtful. Maybe something is hurting. Maybe there is a condition that your happiness is based upon these particular things. And the reason why I'm framing it like this is because you know that your happiness is based upon conditions. So again, let's not pretend that we've evolved past it. This is the truth. This is the reality that we must face and do that work. That is the beauty. So when we get to the truth of the reality, then all of a sudden we can create huge gains. But instead, so many times, as you are all very aware, we attempt to say, no, I don't do that. So then we're actually negating and maybe even blanketing over that very something that we have to work on in order to truly evolve this life. If you keep saying, no, I'm perfect, I'm perfect, I'm perfect, which you are perfect, but perfectly imperfect, as they say. So the imperfections are perfect in their design. It's designed like that. Why else and how else would it be? Look, everything has meaning and purpose in this room. The floor, the carpet, the microphone, my hat. Everything has a purpose. Your body, everything has a purpose. There's no one thing in your body that is not there for a reason. So if we just start to become really logical in how our world around us is organized, then it makes perfect sense that it would mean the same on the inside. So everything is in perfect place, even the imperfections that you see and feel. So if there's an imperfection in the room, then you would then sweep it up, dispose of it, do whatever it is that you need to do in order to bring it back to the way that it is in its perfection. The dust ball can stay there, and that's perfectly imperfect. But when you clean it, then all of a sudden it becomes perfection. So this is the mind, this is the emotion, this is the person who is inhabiting the body, who is using the mind. To recognize that this is why you're here, to recognize that when you close your eyes and you see all of that which you see, which you say, well, this isn't meditation, but I'm just going to sit here anyways. That's exactly how you will learn the process that meditation provides. And then this is exactly the path that you would take in order to gain the wisdom and understanding that meditation gives. So what I'm saying is that it's all there. It's actually all there already. It's perfectly like this. Perfect. So really the only thing that we have to do is just get really open, really honest, really truthful with ourselves and how we relate first to our mind and our emotions, our personality, even our body. And then secondly, how we relate to the people around us. But this is also translated into a meditation experience. You close your eyes, you are the observer. And chances are high, as you are developing within your meditation practice, then all of a sudden a nice storyline begins to emerge. And now you become that thought. You're no longer observing it, you're in the thought, you're a character within that thought, following the scenario around. So as in, how are you relating to that character that you've built for yourself within your mind? As a memory or as a projection into the future? With those other characters that you have. So if you begin to form some kind of a relationship with that which is occurring inside of you, the story, then we become incredibly equipped for the world that we have outside of us. Because in both scenarios, you are actually creating it, the circumstance, the plot. You're creating the characters, the scenario, exactly how you want them to be, no matter how furiously or how desperately that character attempts to express what they mean. It's not possible because we only hear it in the story that we're telling. They could say anything. You're like, well, I don't believe you. This is not true. This is not right. But this is the thing with the mind, is that we are telling ourselves a story. So what is that story that you're telling? And what is your relationship to that story? So meditation is all about very gently, very peacefully, but effectively dissolving the story and replacing it with the truth. Well, what is that truth? The beauty of the truth is that it's inside of you and you define it. Incredibly beautiful. Not so dramatic. And, 'cause, 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 ' So to see work within that, work is a bit of a catchphrase for everything that an individual personally is working through this life. So to see the value in the work which you are doing on an internal level, you're doing an incredibly good job. And allowing that to express itself outwardly. But when you get caught, which inevitably you're going to get caught, today, tomorrow, or the next day, there'll be a little catch, a little bite. Oh, I thought I was so good at this. This is when you can just simply flip back to who am I in relationship to this experience, and practice this unconditional versus conditional. Unconditional versus conditional. And the amazing thing is that you don't even need to be good at it. Your attention just has to be presented with it. So that you say, whoa, okay, so this is it. And then what you do with it at that moment in time, it honestly doesn't even matter. Because you've already made the choice. You're either going to say, okay, well, I need to soften. Or you're going to say, I'm just throwing this idea out the window. I'm going to harden even more. Conditional versus non-conditional, who cares? But it's true what thousands of years of practitioners of life have been saying, that eventually you must get to this place of seeing the world as it is on a neutral level, as being the same. And this is true evolution of the human mind. And it's so easy for us to go to the end game and say, well, I want to be there, I want to be there, I want to be there. But they're saying it from that perspective, which means they've already taken the journey that you're on in order to define that as being a truth and reality. So the only way to get there is to be exactly where you are now. This is why not very many people in the world feel sorry for us. Nobody really feels that sorry. You are where you are. But the empathy and the compassion comes from the own individual's experience of that which you're going through. And I can guarantee you're going through something. Every human being is. So it's the grace, it's the fluidity, it's the coolness within the heat that is actually making the difference. So that which I'm talking about can all be seen, experienced, harnessed, and developed through the practice of meditation. On your own, closing your eyes. Bolstered, strengthened by a simple awareness and acknowledgement that you are not perfect. And when you allow that story to come up, well, you're increasing in your intelligence and understanding of what to do with that. What is that? So now one of the end games of the practice of meditation is to dissolve that which you see into absolute nothing, into just pure space, into a dynamic expression of stillness. So if we work with that in the immediate, allowing it to dissolve, allowing it to dissolve, allowing it to dissolve, but becoming specific with what is dissolving, because you are that intelligent within your meditation. It's not random. it is step by step, methodically working through your mental experience, through your energetic experience, through your physical experience. So what is dissolving? Is it the emotion that is dissolving? Is it the thought formation? Is it the idea that you're caught in? What is it that is surrendering to the force of your meditative concentration? And that force of concentration, it is what is creating continuity. Continuity meaning that there's a baseline which is constantly the same. It doesn't move, it doesn't change, it doesn't shift. Something that then you can rely on until it dissolves. So meaning we hit this threshold of our focused concentration. It says, I found it, this is it. And it's true, you have found it, and you are true, this is it. Until it dissolves. And once it dissolves, then you open up into another layer, another level of what consciousness is presenting. So it becomes incredibly exciting. It's so fun. Right? It's fun. This is why last week I asked, what is it that you want? Because if you take this focused concentration, which is now free of all of the story, and then you begin to apply that which you want, then that focused concentration begins to put into place an energetic frequency, a vibration that is supportive to that which you want from the deepest level, right? This desire from the deepest level, not of the mundane, which then the brain organizes, the nervous system organizes, the body acts in a very particular way in order to receive that. Which creates congruency. Your inner reality begins to match your outer reality, and your outer reality begins to match your inner reality. And that's truth. When the two are congruent, then this is the truth. So there's a level of boldness that you have to have with yourself, along with the empathy, along with the compassion, along with the condition or the unconditioned, whatever is necessary in the time. There may need to be a condition until there's no condition. So this is the beauty. Any questions?
Speaking of you're speaking of a really raw consciousness that permeates and exists completely, and that somehow we've detached ourselves through this condition, unconditioned. Is that correct?
When you say detached, do you mean
Somehow we've broken from this raw, prevalent, underlining essence of consciousness, and through this practice of yoga, with all its rituals and so on and so forth, we're trying to go back to that home, to that state. Is that correct?
Kind of. It's, from my perspective, the practice of yoga is dealing with the individual's mind. So it's not even taking anybody back anywhere, because we are already there, because that baseline vibration is permeating through everything. You can consider that to be the Shiva vibration, just constant. And so then what we are dealing with is the density of the mind stuff. That the content of your mind, the density that creates thought, creates emotion, when the reality is it doesn't really need to be there. And one very effective piece of advice that the ancients have been giving for a long time is to create a subtle mind. So in that's the perfect clue, the hint of what needs to be done in order to understand the total experience of yoga and also the mind. So if the mind is of a dense nature, it's impossible to see it all, which means there's many unknowns, which is considered to be ignorance. So if someone doesn't know something, then potentially pain will arise, potentially confusion, potentially anger. But if this unknown becomes known just simply through dissolving the density of the mind, then actually we have access to it all. We can see the eternity worth of the expression, which is the mind. So yes, it is like going home, but it's that we're already there. That's the funny part.
And you said that the inner and the outer will align and express themselves wholly and truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
So if the inner is that which is, right, or Tat Sat,
Mm-hmm.
then it makes sense to me that this perilous journey of going into the mind, why is it so hard and complicated and time-consuming, lifetimes consuming? Why? Why can't we not just snap like we wake up at night?
Yes. Well, you can.
From a dream.
It is possible to just snap like that. And some of the reasoning as to why is because we were not taught. So the early childhood learning was actually designed to create worlds of imagination, not truth and presence. So in this creating worlds, we really created figments that we wanted to believe in so badly. And then when it didn't come true, like Santa Claus isn't real or whatever it may be, then we are shattered. And it creates a disbelief. So a disbelief in our ability to manifest, a disbelief in our ability to see reality for what it is, a disbelief in our own personal power that we even know what the truth is. Somewhere out there, someone knows the truth, and then there goes the human being off seeking to find that. When the reality is that it's all existing inside you. And that we've just played a huge funny trick on ourselves. And if we develop the ability, some way, somehow, I'm not even saying meditation is the absolute way, but some way, somehow, we must find the ability to dissolve that story which we're telling ourselves and get to the presence of the reality, this present moment of reality. Okay, well, what is this? How is this person talking to me? Is this really what this person is saying? What is this circumstance? Is this really the circumstance? And if we just begin to trust in the truth that is what is being told, what is being come of us, even if we're duped for a moment. This is the thing, nobody wants to be duped. Nobody wants to be duped by their own mind, by their emotions, by their heart, by the people around them, by their society. So then it's constantly defending ourselves from the potential of being duped. When, if you just let go, then you will be duped sometimes. But you'll become incredibly good at reading into the truth because it's always there. If it wasn't always there, well, then it wouldn't be true. So the truth is always there. It's that reflection, so the inner and the outer. So if the outer is reflecting something that you're now, because of the subtlety, beginning to pick up on as being, maybe there's more to it, well, then you can easily find what is the truth. And then here comes the unconditions. So unconditionally loving, respecting, honoring that person for going through their process. Right? Because then it turns into a fight, and then and then it creates all kinds of interesting complexities within the mind that becomes a land field of, mental issues. And then someone says, I don't want to deal with it. So then they go off this way and into a distraction. When the beauty of it is that it's so simple. It is so simple. It is so incredibly simple. And the simplicity is that, yes, you are feeling this way right now. Okay. Unconditionally experience that. Do you like it? No. Okay, well then that's the truth. You don't actually like it. You're not supposed to like it. So what do you do with that emotion, with that thought that you don't really care for? Well, if it's a part of you, then should you care for it? Yes or no? Let's just say yes. It's a part of me, so I should care for it. Okay, well then how do you care for someone or something that's wounded? So is this a wound that you have inside yourself that needs care? Like, why else would the mind go out of place? Why else would the mind show you something that's not congruent? Why else would the mind ever give you an experience that's not true? Unless it's not fully healthy. Unless it doesn't fully know the truth, that piece. Okay, so then who knows the truth? If it's not found outside and it's found inside, well then what part of this inside of me is the truth? Does it exist in maybe this higher form of mind, even going beyond this intellect into the intelligence that is magically running this whole show? So if there's an intelligence that you can trust that comes from inside, that if you ask the question, you receive an answer, and then you trust that you're not being duped by yourself, but that you're telling yourself a phase of the truth, an aspect of the truth, not even the whole truth yet, because the whole truth is found within a process. So sometimes you see the graph of a spiritual journey and it's like this, and this is honeymoon phase, just like, wow, this is the most amazing experience of my life, and then all of a sudden it stops, just nosedive, and it's like bumpy road, up, down, up, down, up, down. Just like, what happened? Now this is a very common thing that happens, and it's because the story runs out right about here, and then you plummet because you kept pushing air in your sails or in your hot air balloon with all of this beautiful story that you keep telling. But then when there's no story left, it's just because the yoga and the wisdom traditions is all about the truth and reality, and it's like, whoa, I'm getting humbled right now. I don't really know. What's going on? And that's the perfect place to be, because then all of a sudden you start to make the comeback, but from a different perspective. I mean, and it's illustrated with so many stories. You know, these epic journeys. India has these incredible stories. All the Buddhist traditions have these incredible stories. Allegories are made about it. Metaphors. It's all about that. Constantly, continuously, the aspiring individual who is earnestly seeking truth may spend 30 years. 30 years. Then all of a sudden, one thing happens, and the whole universe shifts. And then they understand that which they have been working with for that long. So it's simply complicated. There is nothing complex, but it is a full and complete psychology. This is why I consider all of you to be very healthy-minded individuals. How else could you handle the rigor of the spiritual path? I mean, it's a bit rigorous. Joyously rigorous. And if it's a really good path, well, then it's showing you constantly that which you need to work on. As soon as you finish one task, it's right on to the next. And you can't get away from it. So if you're sitting there saying, I don't like the sounds of this, I think this is the condition that he was talking about, I'm out of here. It's not about any one person, place, thing, practice, non-practice. It's actually your life. So you're in it to win it. Enjoy it. Because it won't last forever. One day you will be sitting there, ding, all perfected and understood, and you'll look back, across the yugas and be like, wow, this was an amazing thing. Any other questions, comments? You want to say something? Come on, let's do it. Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say. You always have good things to say.
No, I'm just thinking, because we're all individual,
Yeah.
our truths will be our own individual truth.
Yes.
So we will not be all running on one path, because my truth will not be your truth or Daryl's truth or whatever. Is that right?
I agree with you. Yeah, it's as many people as there are in this room, as many people as there are on this planet, there are that many paths that lead to the same place.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So but then there's meetup points.
Right.
And that's how we all stay sane. So we're just running on our own individual beauty, and they're like, wait a minute, I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to be going. And then all of a sudden something happens, and then there's a meetup. And they're like, okay, got it, touch base. And then again, everyone goes.
Right.
And that's really how it goes. And this is, again, the only reason how and why a practice can be taught is because there's those meetups.
Right, but
Everyone is on their own thing.
right, on their own path.
Yeah,
Except
and
we're all heading toward.
we're all heading towards that beauty point. And also, because we're all of the same species, right? We're all human beings. We have common behaviors, which keeps us all in check. Check meaning we can bounce off of each other and be like, oh yeah, you're kind of the same as me. We connect. So these are behavioral gestures, in the face, in the body, motions, mind. Like attracts like. Yeah. That's a good comment and question. Anything else?
I was just thinking about the kind of what we were saying, or what you were saying, George was saying as well. And I was thinking about, when I look at it, I try and go back to the very beginning of things, right? The origin where it started. And I see it as kind of like a common conditioning that as a society we all agree upon, that this is the world, this is what it looks like, this is how it works. And through that, at some point, we became infatuated with that world, with the ego, with the consciousness, with this fantasy land that we live in, right? And so we become infatuated with that, we become distracted. But at some point, there's an origin back there that I think is, to me anyways, is almost like the goal if there was one. But there isn't really one, it's just kind of getting back there. And so to me, like a lot of what I'm focusing on in meditation is kind of the absence of everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like removing the layers, right? The layers of conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of breaking down those rules, right? So that I'm not necessarily, seeing things as we all agree to, but more as kind of like, like a letting go type phase. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So of things like disappointment, and when you talk about emotions and those arising, and even inspiration and drive, right? But more letting those things go to try and get back to that place of where it started. So when you talk about like the baseline of like frequencies and vibrations and where that comes from, so kind of stripping all of that away to get back to that place.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. And one thing that I would add for your contemplation is that not only looking as an origin point of starting, but that exact same origin exists in the future, in front of you. So looking forward and just letting it all go, one giant swoop, just again and again and again. Because the mind has that capability to do that without even looking at it, knows exactly what to surrender, what to let go of, because that origin point is orientated towards the forward, the front, the future. Mm-hmm. That's good. I like it. Anything else? Okay, let's close our eyes. So today, again, we'll sit all the way through. There'll be no gong singing bowl today. Keeping the eyes closed, bring full deep breaths into the body. Bring your gaze into the space just there in front of you. And see exactly where you're going. Know that you're already there. Maintain the quality of that space for 1 minute. Keeping the eyes closed, soften the gaze. And very, very gently, very, very slowly, allow the eyes to open. So now the only thing that is holding us from becoming that which we see, that destination point when we focus, where we know exactly where we're going, is two things. One, the content of your mind, the content, the type of content within your mind, how it's organized and constructed and densified. So we must create nothing out of it, because that's what it is. It is absolutely nothing. The second thing is our fear. The fear of the unknown, the fear of not succeeding, which is ultimately the fear of death. So how we develop this ability is to continuously dissolve and peer into the space directly in front of us. Understanding, realizing, again understanding, and again realizing that that which you see in front of you is eternity. And you are that. Eternal. Which abolishes all fear. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste.